Take your Bible, if you would, and turn to Genesis chapter 26, the very last two verses of Genesis chapter 26. That's where we'll begin today. In this story, to give you a little background, we have a couple of twin brothers, Esau the elder and Jacob the younger. Their parents, Isaac and Rebekah. These four characters make up the main characters in the story. And these two brothers, as it's been known to happen from time to time, compete with one another, sometimes don't like one another, cheat and steal and lie to one another, especially the younger one to the older. And we have another example of that today. And in the midst of all of the scheming and the deception and the lies, there's a blessing that happens. And I think that there are some lessons that you and I can glean from this incredible story. It's a story that if you did grow up in church, you may remember hearing most of this story. But we begin in verse 34 of chapter 26 in the book of Genesis, and we read these words. Now Esau was 40 years old, and he took as a wife Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and also Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they brought bitterness to Isaac and Rebekah. Okay, so Isaac and Rebekah, that's mom and dad. They are upset with Esau's two wives that he took for himself, and they don't seem to be that upset that he took two wives, but rather there's something else that made them upset. What was it that made Esau's parents upset that he married these women? Well, let's look at this verse again. Look on the screen if you would, and I'll sort of highlight the problem. These two women were both Hittite women. Now, who in the world were the Hittites? Well, the Hittites were the other people living in the land. They were the people in the community. And the problem with the Hittites was that they weren't part of Abraham's extended family. And so they were foreign wives. And the Hittites, unlike Abraham, the Hittites did not have a covenant with the Lord. But this is who Esau, the elder brother, decided to marry a couple of women from. And so Isaac and Rebekah, they didn't like it. They were bitter at it, and probably not the last parents in the world to ever be less than pleased with their children's choice in a spouse. But they were upset with the entire situation, and this looks like a very trivial matter when we look at the rest of the story, but I want you to understand this is not a trivial piece of information. In fact, this is a key to how the rest of the story unfolds. And this unpleasantness, this bitterness to Isaac and his wife Rebekah becomes something that will be used for good benefit. And there's a lesson in that already, which is this. Any unpleasantness in your life, no matter what it is, any unpleasantness in your life can be used for your benefit. And so we're going to see how this works out. So for now, I want you to file this away that Isaac and Rebekah, mom and dad, were upset with Esau's choice in these two wives, because we're going to come back to it in just a minute. It's a little bit of foreshadowing. Next chapter, chapter 27. Here, Isaac is growing old, and he wants to call his firstborn son to him so he can give him a final blessing before he dies. And we read, now it happened that when Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called his older son Esau and said to him, my son. And he said to him, here I am. Okay, get the story? Isaac is old. He's practically blind, or he is blind at this point. And he calls his older son in. And remember, Esau has a twin brother named Jacob. Here's one of the problems between Isaac and Rebekah and their two boys. Isaac liked Esau, and Rebekah liked Jacob. We had preferential treatment of the two parents toward each of these twin boys. We read back in Genesis 25, verse 28, Isaac loved Esau because he had an appetite for hunted game. That's what Esau did. Esau was a hunter. Esau would go out into the field, and he would do like so many men like to do even today, go out into the field, kill his dinner, bring it home, prepare it, and cook it, and it's all very nice, and this was Daddy's favorite meal. And so he would do this, and so Esau became Isaac's favorite son. But that verse says, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And so that's the setting, and now in chapter 27, Isaac is old, he's practically blind, he could die at any moment. So he calls Esau to himself, and we read in verses 2 through 4. And Isaac said, behold now, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. So now, please, take up your gear, your quiver, and your bow, and go out into the field, and hunt game for me, and prepare a savory dish for me, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, so that my soul may bless you before I die. Isaac says, I want you to go and hunt down my favorite meal one last time. And then I'll bless you before I die. Now this is a big deal. If you know the extended story of Esau and Jacob, you may remember that many years before, Esau came in from the field and he was just famished. He was so hungry. And Jacob, he liked to hang around the tent. He liked to cook things. He had made a very savory red stew. And Esau wanted the stew, and Jacob said, well, hold on there, brother. You know that birthright that you have being the firstborn child? I want it. Sell me your birthright, and then I'll give you some stew. And Esau said, I might as well. I'm going to die. And so he sold Jacob, his younger brother, the birthright. Now, there's a difference between a birthright and here in chapter 27, a blessing. The birthright has to do with the inheritance. It has to do with the estate. It has to do with the wealth. And so what Esau was due as the firstborn child was, he got an extra share. It was as if he was two persons, and Isaac only got one share. Esau had an extra share, but now Esau had sold his birthright to Isaac, and so now Isaac gets the majority of the estate, simply for a bowl of red stew. Well, in chapter 27, we're talking about the blessing, not the birthright. The birthright has to do with the inheritance, the estate. The blessing has to do with this. Who's going to be in charge of the family once Daddy's gone? Who's the head of the family now? That has yet to be determined. And so normally that would fall to Esau. He's the firstborn, plus Esau is Daddy's favorite. And so Daddy's about to give it to Esau. Now, what makes this blessing especially important is this. This family is very special, unlike any other family on the face of the earth. This family is dysfunctional, but this family is very special. And this family is special in a very unique way, because what happened with this family was that many years before, Isaac's own daddy, Jacob and Esau's granddaddy, Abraham, was called out by God among all the other men on the face of the earth. God chose one man, Abraham, to be his own. And this is what God said to Abraham: I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great. And so you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you, I will curse. And in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. And so this blessing would be passed down from Abraham to the child who received his blessing, that was Isaac, and now it's going to be passed down another generation to either Jacob or Esau. And so one of these two will inherit all of the promises that God made to Abraham. One of these two would become a great nation, would be blessed, would have a great name, would become a blessing, would be protected by God, will bless all of the families of the earth, and even a little bit later, God had promised Abraham, you get all the land here too. One of these two will receive all of them. So whichever of Isaac's sons receives the blessing, that son will automatically receive God's promises. Well, it looks like it's a done deal. I mean, Esau's the oldest. Isaac is about to bless the oldest. Isaac's going to pass down God's promises to his firstborn and favorite son, Esau, right? Well, not so fast. You see, way back when Rebekah, that's Mama, was pregnant with these twin boys, the Lord made a promise to her. And the Lord promised her that it would be the younger son that would receive the blessing. Here's what Yahweh said to her, that's the Lord. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples will be separated from your body. And one people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So now we have Isaac and his will. Will his will be done, for he chooses Esau, or will the Lord's will be done? Well, you can probably figure out the answer to that question pretty easily. The Lord's will be done. And so now, this is the scenario that's happening. And Isaac's wife, Rebekah, she is about to put her thumb on the proverbial scale and tip things in favor of her favorite child, Jacob the younger. We read in verses 5 through 7. Now Rebekah was listening while Isaac was speaking to his son Esau. Husbands, your wife is always listening. She was listening. Then Esau went to the field to hunt for game to bring to Isaac. But Rebekah went off and spoke to her son Jacob, saying, Behold, I heard your father speaking to your brother Esau, saying, Bring me some game and prepare a savory dish for me, that I may eat and bless you in the presence of Yahweh before my death. So now, my son, she says, listen to my voice as I command you. Go now to the flock and get for me 2 choice young goats from there, that I may prepare them as a savory dish for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall bring it to your father, that he may eat, so that he may bless you before his death. Get the picture? Old and blind Isaac is about to be tricked by his wife and his second-born child into making his second-born child, Jacob, the head of the family and the receiver of God's blessings. But Jacob knows this plan is not foolproof. Jacob believes that his daddy is going to catch on to this trick. And Jacob answered his mother Rebekah in verse 11. He said, Behold, my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. By the way, he was smooth in more ways than one. That same word smooth is used in Proverbs to talk about the lying tongue, which Jacob has a problem with. I'm a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me And I will be a mocker in his sight, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. But his mother said to him, your curse be on me, my son. Only listen to my voice and go, get them for me. Run off to the flock, it's nearby. Get those 2 lambs, bring them back to me. Go get them for me. So he went and got them, and he brought them to his mother, and his mother made a savory dish, such as his father loved. And Rebekah knows, she knows her husband. She knows that he has a weakness for his favorite meal. I mean, we men are so simple, you know. We're really simple, you know. We're easy pickings for a woman like Rebekah. You know, it's very easy for her. And so then Rebekah, in verse 15, took the best garments of Esau, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and she put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the young goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. And she also gave the savory dish and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And so now you see that Rebekah gives everything. She has all these tools that she's given Jacob that he needs in order to trick his father. And every one of these tools will play an essential role. Esau's clothes, the goat skins on his hands and neck, the savory meal, all of this is going to be used to trick Daddy. And so that's what happens. Jacob tricks his father. Verse 18, then he came to his father and he said, my father. And his father is blind, of course. He said, here I am. Who are you, my son? I mean, blind Isaac is confused as to which son is speaking with him. And Jacob said to his father in verse 19, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Rise up, please, sit and eat of my game so that your soul may bless me. This is an outright lie. Jacob says, I am Esau. Now, the lie has some credulity to it. I mean, according to Isaac, how would anyone know, except Esau, about this private conversation that I had with him, telling him to go out into the field and get me some game? Who else would know that? But Isaac didn't know that his wife had overheard him. And he certainly didn't know that his wife would take part in deceiving him. And Jacob, he gets right to it. He gets right to his plan. Sit and eat my game so that your soul may bless me. I want the blessing. Hurry. Give me the blessing. Then Isaac said to his son in verse 20, how is it that you found this game so quickly, my son? And he said, because Yahweh, your God, caused it to happen to me. Jacob is taking the name of the Lord and he's using it to lie. This is outright blasphemy. Absolute blasphemy. Let me tell you something. If you start committing blasphemies, you're on thin ice. Now, sometimes we think or we hear someone committing a blasphemy and we're like, we're going to step away. Lightning bolt's coming. The earth's going to open up and swallow this guy. But I want you to know something about the Lord. The Lord is patient. The Lord will deal with the blasphemies. But he'll do it in his perfect timing, in his perfect way. God's going to deal with Jacob later. And notice that Jacob tells his father that Yahweh is your God. He's your God. Jacob doesn't worship the Lord yet. He doesn't know the Lord, not yet. That's going to change someday. But at this point in his life, he doesn't know the Lord. In fact, if he knew the Lord, I dare say he would not use the Lord's name for personal gain and to lie to his father in order to receive his father's blessing. Well, so this is the story that Isaac's hearing. And Isaac, something just feels off about this whole story. Then Isaac said to Jacob, please come near that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob came near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him because the hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him, but still something didn't taste right about this whole deal. And Isaac, he said in verse 24, "Are you really my son Esau?" And he said, "I am." So he said, "Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's game, so that my soul may bless you." And he brought it near to him, and he ate, and he also brought him wine, and he drank. And all this time, Isaac is becoming more and more convinced. But still, something about the situation just doesn't smell right. It needs to pass the smell test, literally. And then Father Isaac said to him, "Please come near and kiss me, my son." So he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of the garments. Whose garments? Esau's garments were on Isaac. And then he blessed him and said, "See, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which Yahweh has blessed. Now may God give you the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and an abundance of grain and new wine. May peoples serve you and nations bow down to you. Be master of your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you." So now the blessing has officially passed to Jacob. Now it happened in verse 30 that as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had hardly gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. Then he also made a savory dish and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me." And Isaac, his father, said to him, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." Then Isaac trembled exceedingly violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me, so that I ate of all of it before you came and blessed him? Indeed, he shall be blessed." And Esau heard the words of his father, and he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me, me also, O my father." And he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and has taken away your blessing." Then Esau said, "Is he not rightly named Jacob?" Which means supplanter. "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing." And he said, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" But Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him your master, and all his fellow brothers I have given to him as servants. With grain and new wine I have sustained him. Now as for you then, what can I do, my son?" And Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." So Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, "Behold, Away from the fatness of the earth shall be your habitation, and away from the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. But it shall be when you become restless that you will break his yoke from your neck. This blessing for Esau is not much of a blessing. In fact, it's more of a curse. It's an anti-blessing. Although there's a little light at the end of the tunnel for Esau and his descendants. Notice his descendants are depicted here as a wild beast breaking free of its yoke. They're going to have to survive by being a warrior nation. But I want you to notice something in this blessing. There's something missing in this blessing. There's no mention of the Lord. No mention of the Lord whatsoever for Esau and his descendants. Well, Esau's not happy, as you can imagine. Verse 41, so Esau bore a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. Esau is mad enough to kill, literally. But he's not going to do it yet. He's going to wait until his father dies. And by the way, on the earthly side of things, this seems like a pretty good plan. Why? Jacob doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have any kids. If Esau kills Jacob, who gets everything? Esau does. That's his plan. Esau's going to get his birthright back. He's going to get his blessing back. But now, Mama intervenes. Mama learns. In verse 42, then the words of her elder son Esau were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called her younger son Jacob and said to him, behold, your brother Esau is consoling himself concerning you by planning to kill you. So now, my son, listen to my voice. Second time she said that. Listen to my voice and arise, flee to Haran to my brother Laban. Stay with him a few days until your brother's wrath subsides, until your brother's anger against you subsides, and he forgets what you did to him. Then I will send and get you from there. Why should I be bereaved of you both in one day? Real quick, Rebekah doesn't know it yet, but her favorite son is going to be gone a lot longer than a few days. Try a few decades. You see, Rebekah's deception is about to cost her her favorite son. That's the way sin is. Sin will take you farther than you want to go. It will keep you longer than you want to stay. And it will cost you more than you want to pay. Every single time. But you know, Rebekah has this intent. She has this idea. Let's get my favorite son out of town. But having an intention and having a plan are two separate things. So she has to come up with a plan. She has to come up with a plan. She needs some pretext to get Jacob out of town. And she's got just the thing sitting in her back pocket. Just the reason to get him out of town. You remember how much she and her husband, Isaac, hated Esau's wives because they were foreigners to them. They were Hittite wives. They were the daughters of Heth. She's going to use that to get Jacob out of town. All she has to do now is to get her husband, Isaac, to agree to send Jacob out of town under the pretext of don't let him marry one of these women here in the community. They're bad news. So that's exactly what she does. Verse 46. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I am tired of living because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of Heth like these, from the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me? Well, her plan works. Chapter 28, verse 1. So Isaac, that's daddy, called Jacob in and blessed him and commanded him and said, your mother's bearing me out. Oh, wait, that's not exactly what he said. But he said, you shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and from there take to yourself a wife from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may become an assembly of peoples. May he also give you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your seed with you, that you may possess the land of your sojournings which God gave to my father Abraham. Then Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to Laban, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. Isaac said, go to your mother's family and find a wife from them. Well, now Esau's left all alone. He's there with his mom and dad. Jacob's hightailed it out of town. So what's Esau going to do? And Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padan Aram to take for himself a wife from there. And that when he blessed him and commanded him, saying, you shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob listened to his father and his mother and had gone to Padan Aram. So Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan were displeasing in the sight of his father Isaac. He finally figured it out. My parents don't like my first two wives because they're from here. He finally figured it out. So now Esau decided to go to Ishmael. Esau went to Ishmael. Who's Ishmael? Ishmael is his daddy's older half-brother who's been banished from the land. But Esau hasn't been real happy with his mother lately. So he goes to his daddy's side of the family, to Ishmael. And he took Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife, besides the wives that he had. Esau is still trying to curry favor with his dad. He's trying to win over his dad's heart. And he realizes way too late that he never should have married those Hittite women that he married. So now he's going to marry a third wife from dad's extended family. But the problem is he goes to dad's discarded half-brother Ishmael to find a wife. You know, in this entire story, there's one character that is largely missing. It is the Lord. Now, the Lord is mentioned a couple of times by Isaac, but the Lord makes no appearances here. The Lord speaks no words here, not in this story. The Lord is in the background because the Lord is always there, even if he's hard to see, even if he's hard to hear, even if he makes no pronouncements. The Lord is always there because the Lord is always superintending events to work out according to his plan, even if some of those events occur at the hands of crooked people doing crooked things. You know, God is never the author of sin, but God does use the results of human sin to carry out his purposes. God used Rebekah's deception. He used Jacob's lies to fulfill his plan through Jacob. And Jacob inherited the blessing that Isaac had inherited from Abraham. God chose Abraham, and the blessing fell to Isaac and to Jacob, and that same blessing would continue uninterrupted for around 2 millennia until we finally come to the person in whom all of the promises to Abraham were fulfilled. And that is the Lord Jesus Christ. In the 8th chapter of John's Gospel, you don't have to turn there, but Jesus said to some of his fellow Jews, all of these people, including including Jesus himself, were children of Abraham. And he said to some fellow Jews there, "Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day. He saw it and was glad." And the Jews of Jesus' day said to him, "You're not yet 50 years old. You have seen Abraham?" And Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." This is the fulfillment of God's promises. God's promises their fulfillment resides in Jesus. Who's Jesus? He is the great I am. Jesus is Yahweh in the flesh. And he died on a cross to bring us to God. He rose from the grave to give us eternal life. All of this is part of God's plan. And I believe that it is part of God's plan for you, if you have not yet trusted in the Lord Jesus Christ, to do so today and to be a part of God's family.